Okay, all set. That's me. Okay. All right. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. There is one slight change to the agenda on item 10J. Just a clarification for the executive session. We will be talking about property, but we are not in a position to update the board on the particulars of the Salamanca Teachers Association contract negotiation. So we really won't be talking about the agreement because it's not quite ready yet.
Okay. All right, then with that, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Sue, second by, was that Brad?
Mhm.
By Brad, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. And our recognitions and presentations, our capital project update.
Thank you very much. We will start with Turner Construction on a capital project update.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm just going to try to share my screen here. Let's see.
Hang on one second. We've got some technical difficulties.
It says I'm sharing, so as soon as you guys have it up there.
Yeah, that would probably be the first fix.
Okay.
Hello.
Emma's down.
Why don't we, Levi, why don't we flip somebody's speaker off of mute on their laptop so we can.
All right, they're having some technical difficulties here as it is, but let me see if I can't. So mine was from the board meeting. It was sent by Karen Megara.
It'll broadcast over, like through everybody. It's just for the board to hear.
So if we turn our computers off of our volume up, we should be able to hear them.
It's not everyone's.
Julian, can you give us a test?
Yep. It says I'm screen sharing right now.
Okay.
The beginning of the PowerPoint presentation, showing one of Levi's aerial shots of the fields.
Okay, we're just having a little technical difficulties on our end, but go ahead.
Okay. So sorry about that. So typical theme to our previous presentations, we'll give you guys an update on Vets Park. It's been a couple months since we gave an update, but we do have some pretty exciting stuff to share with you guys as we rolled through the finishes and got some of the big technology online over here at the park. So we'll get started with the baseball team rooms and press box area. So from the top left hand photo here, we have the spiral stair came in and we had that installed, giving us access from ground level up to the second floor press box for the baseball field. The bottom left hand photo here is showing the cubbies and benches that were installed in the dugouts. And then the right hand photo here, we had the locker delivery, we had some mobile benches come in, the tack boards are in place, and these areas are ready for a punch list. which we have scheduled for next Friday, with Hunt coming down to provide that list for us. The multi-purpose field team rooms, the top left photo, we had the toilet partitions and accessories and all our gang bathrooms and team room bathrooms installed since the last update. The bottom left-hand photo is the concession stand. We had the grease hood installed, the tile work was finished up, some of the cabinetry and stainless steel tables and sink were all installed in there. And then similarly, we've had the lockers, mobile benches and tack boards installed in the team rooms. Those are also ready for a punch list next Friday from Hunt. The press box and site work. So this is where we start to get into some of the more exciting stuff here that happened over the last few weeks. So in the top left-hand picture, this is a photo standing on the roof of the press box. So you get a glimpse of what the view looks like from up there, the fields. In the distance, there's the Trex fence that was installed along the Hancock side of the property. Woodsmith Fence, the contractor for that, is just wrapping that fence up today and demobilizing as we speak out there right now. The bottom photo, that's just a view of the Warrior from the press box. Just wanted to give you guys a glimpse of what that looks like from up there. And then in the top right-hand, or the right-hand photo, is your video and audio equipment in the press box. So we were able to train the district staff last week on that so that they're ready to go and utilize the equipment for the first game coming up on April 1st. Moving into box lacrosse. So on Monday, our first shipment of the box lacrosse boards came in. They're installing them today. This photo was taken this morning. Right now, they have probably 2/3 of that first field's lower board section wrapped around the field right now. So they're moving right along, and second shipment of boards is going to be coming in next Monday. A little update on the park opening. So we've been meeting with district staff over the last couple of weeks to develop that plan. The football team scheduled to start utilizing the turf field for practice next Monday, 3/22. We have the building punch list walk that I mentioned with Hunt next Friday, 3/26. And that's in preparation to get that list in order so that the teams can occupy the team rooms at halftime of that first game, which is scheduled for 4/1. The district, like I mentioned, has been trained on the use of the video board and scoreboard and audio system. And what they've also just recently gotten access to is usernames and passwords to access the Musco Light system and set schedules for games and nighttime activities, which is all available for use now. And then the site work punch list, that work's going to be ongoing through the month of April with the warmer weather, finishing some of the concrete work, asphalt paving, signage. Got a little feedback there. And that site work punch list is going to happen on the project substantial completion date, which is 4/30/21, the end of April. And that's all in preparation for the big ribbon cutting ceremony, which I think Bob had scheduled for some of the fans out there on May 4th. Will be the ribbon cutting ceremony for the project. And just before we get into questions, I did want to just give you guys a little glimpse of the audio system. I have a little video I'm going to try to pull up and play for you guys. Hopefully that makes it to the screen. It's a brief 10-second clip. Hopefully you guys can hear that feedback coming through there, but hopefully you guys were able to hear that, but that was the audio system from the baseball speakers, which there's 2 speakers up on the press box, kind of high up on the building. That speaker system that you just heard there is about half as powerful as the one that's underneath the video board. And if I go back to our presentation here that I was sharing.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
That picture there on the park opening plan also shows you your video board that's been lit up, tested out. I think I saw him throwing some highlights up there, some NFL games during the video training session. But on that note, we'll turn it over for any questions you guys have on the capital project.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Julian.
Next, we have our Young and Right presentation.
So Levi,
Yes.
if you could-
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Sean.
I have Alyssa has joined me on the phone. She's having some technical difficulties getting into the meeting. Oh, no, there, actually, I see her face now. She's here.
Good evening, guys. I got in just in the nick of time.
But I'm going to share my screen here, and she's going to make me do the hard part here, which is not my strong point.
So give Sean some grace on the technical side because I let him down. That's good.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right, wonderful. Well, we'll get started here. We're very happy to be here tonight. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about the upcoming building condition survey and the long-term plan. Today, I've got a lot of help here. My name is Sean Wright with Young and Wright Architectural, and Alyssa, who is our building condition survey and long-term planning expert, is going to walk you through the process that we're going to follow over the course of this year or the period that we determined for this particular process. And if there's questions at any time, feel free to just jump in, raise your hand, or let us know that you have a question. We love to get questions as we go through these things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Oop, I'm supposed to be doing my part here. That's what we look like, in case anyone was wondering. But I'm going to turn this over to Alyssa, and we'll get things rolling.
Yeah, so for tonight, our agenda is pretty simple. Thank you, Sean, for the kind introduction. We'll be looking at two things. What's included in our building condition survey. We want you to walk away knowing what you're getting. And then getting the most out of the building condition survey, and we'll be talking about long-term planning. So there'll be two parts to this, both BCS and the long-term plan.
Okay, so it all starts with the building condition survey, and the process that we use and the product that we turn over to you for the building condition survey is much different than what you're probably used to from building condition surveys that you've had in the past. For us, it starts with this group of people. We have a very large group that is involved with our building condition survey. And as you can see, we refer to ourselves as the blue team. And that's basically because we've learned that when we enter into a school district, and we usually have about 9 different experts that join us in each building for a number of days in each building, you end up getting a lot of questions saying, who are these people roaming around our building? And so we kind of try to give you a little heads up in advance. We identify ourselves with blue shirts so that everybody knows that those are just people that are crawling around in the ceilings and under the floors, looking at the conditions of the building. The important part here, though, is just that we use a larger number of people because our folks all have an area of expertise. We'll have people that are looking at the building shell, the mechanical, as you can see here, and a lot of the other building elements that go into this. And that last person there on the bottom right is kind of an important one because these are all of the items that you don't typically get from a building condition survey as required by the state. And Alyssa's going to talk about those just a little bit more.
Yeah, so SCD requires 86 categories to be reviewed as part of the building condition survey. But Young and Wright has learned over the years that there's about at least 40 other things that districts often care about. So as you're skimming this list on the screen, you can probably see a few of them stand out as things that would be important from a planning perspective, whether it's a secure entrance or technology and IT, whether it's athletic spaces, locker rooms, gyms, outside your building athletic facilities. whether it's IT or security, or just having us review the spaces in your buildings, the classrooms, those spaces where kids spend all their time. What's the quality of the art room, the music room, the science rooms? None of that's really evaluated as part of the state's required building condition survey, but I would say it's evaluated as part of district's requirements when you're thinking about planning for your school districts. So this is something that we've rolled right into the exact same process that we'll use to evaluate all of the required state items like windows, doors, walls, floors. We'll also evaluate all of those spaces and systems that we've found are just as essential when planning for your future as a district.
So where this process starts is documenting your existing conditions. And where we like to start is by interviewing some of the key players at each one of your buildings, making sure that we understand certain aspects that we might not pick up on the days that we come out there and do the actual reviews. So, my example is always that, I won't know where your roof leaks if I show up on a beautiful sunny day. And so those are the kind of things that we like to get a little data on. And we have a process that involves your maintenance group, any of your building leaders, people who know your building the best. And we come out, we ask a series of questions, we walk through the facilities with you, kind of get a basic understanding that then we can turn over to our reviewers before they come out into the buildings to do the actual building condition survey.
Yep. Another one of the fun things we'll do before we even get started in the field is we'll collect all of your existing drawings. Sometimes they're in places as scary as the basement on the left photo there on Sean's screen. We'll take all of those drawings, we'll scan them in, we'll utilize those, but we'll also provide them back to you in a digital library. So we'll actually turn the entire building condition survey over on an iPad for your district to use, and we can load it on as many district devices as you already have. But what that will do for you is your facilities team and anybody else who might be interested will be able to get into the drawings for your entire district with the click of a button. So from the roof or from the basement, they'll be able to click on the building. So if you're at the high school, you can click high school, and then they'll say, okay, what year of drawings am I looking for? Maybe there's an addition that they were looking for specifically. They'll be able to click that addition. And then maybe there's a specific trade that they were looking for: mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architectural, civil, structural. They'll be able to just tap that and then instantly be reviewing the drawings for that. So this is really one of the pieces that districts and the facilities members specifically typically love walking away with. And it's also something that helps our team. So when our team is out there evaluating the facility, this also enables them to have all of that information to determine maybe the source of a structural issue, to look into something if they're trying to track a plumbing line. So this really benefits both sides of the team on the data collection side, and then long-term for the district to have a digital library of all of your existing drawings.
So once we get done collecting all this information, we're going to set up our files so that we can come back out and do the building evaluations. And one of the things that's very different about the building condition survey that we provide for you is that, unlike the state required piece where they basically just ask you, what is the condition of your windows, for instance, we actually go around through your building, and once we understand the building, we understand when all the additions may have been added or when renovations may have taken place. We're going to evaluate each of those separately, and we're going to identify them by the building addition that they're a part of. So as you can kind of see from this example here, you may find that you've got, windows that were replaced in 1998 and 2011, and you might still have some original windows in your buildings. We're going to evaluate each one of those as a system on its own with its own category, so that the renovation costs are associated with that work. So for instance, in this, you probably would want to replace those 1969 aluminum windows and glass block windows, but the ones that were put in 2011 or 2009, they might be hanging around for a few more years. So they don't want to be included in the overall cost of things like that. So in addition to this, and are we going to be able to do this, Alyssa?
We are not.
Oh, unfortunately. Okay.
That's the bummer, technical difficulty. So what Sean was excited to show you is that the information that we'll turn over to you is all collected into a database. And this is something that we could email some samples to Bob and Karen so that they could share with you what this typically looks like. We could send a sample school district. I apologize that I wasn't able to connect and share my screen right now. But what we'll collect is all organized into a database. And what you'll see when you get into that on every single entry. So Sean was talking about how everything's broken down by year. You'll be able to see photos of exactly each year. So all the different types of windows that Sean was talking about, you'd see a photo of exactly what that looked like. You'd see multiple photos. You'd see floor plans indicating exactly where the system is. So if there's multiple eras of windows, you'll see on the floor plan exactly where those specific windows are. And then you'll also see a very clear recommended replacement scope. So this is something we feel really strongly about, and I'm sure you guys do too from a planning perspective. You don't want a vague scope description. So Sean mentioned that there's 9 experts out in the field. We've got 4 engineers, 5 architects. Each one of them is giving you a very clear, specific scope on the items that they're looking at. So you won't see something vague in the sense that you'll see $400,000 of plumbing work. You'll see exactly where that plumbing work is coming from. It will say that we're doing a pipe replacement in the 1970s wing. It's this exact section. You'll know if it includes insulation or not. And you'll know if we're recommending testing for asbestos or not in those areas. So it will be an incredibly clear scope, a very clear floor plan, and a very clear set of photos showing you what it looks like. And all of that is so that you can know exactly what's going on. The goal when we walk away from this is that you know the exact status without ever having to move from your seat of each and every item that we're evaluating, and that it's both defendable and able to be used from a planning perspective.
So as Alyssa pointed out, we will send along some samples, Bob, for you to share with the group. I highly, it disappears when I even try to put it up to the screen, but I pulled up one of the jobs we worked on my iPad, and it doesn't look like it's going to allow me to show that to you, but it's a
Sean, we have a question from one of our board members.
Oh, sure.
I just want to make sure I understand. There will be pictures of the windows that may be taken out, and the new windows will have a picture, so it'll show both the old and the new.
So what it'll show is the existing conditions. You'll see photos of the existing windows, and then there'll be a key plan underneath it that'll show you where in the building those are located. And then in another panel on that same page, there is a recommended replacement scope. And what that will do is it'll identify, what the suggestion is. Maybe you're not replacing everything in the window system, but it'll describe what we are replacing or we're recommending to you to replace. And it'll have some quantity, and then it'll also have a unit cost in there. So it will actually calculate out a budget to perform that work. That's how the page works.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That was a good question, though.
And that page will be there for each of the different eras of windows that you have. So as Alyssa pointed out, if you were to go into the database and search windows, and if you had 9 different types of windows like that, it would give you all 9 of those pages. And then you could flip through them and see how they, which ones are unsatisfactory, which ones are satisfactory, and so on. So I will make sure that you get some examples of that, because that is a great part of the presentation, and I'm sorry that our technology isn't cooperating with us tonight. So moving along, there are also additional things that you can typically get done with the budget for a building condition survey. We're not going to get into too much detail. I think we've identified what we will be working with you guys on, but as things come up, sometimes there are various tests that are available through the building condition survey, surveys. We've even started to include some drone imagery and
Can you guys hear Sean?
there we go. For some reason it muted me. And we can talk about that further as we get into the process and move through this.
Sean, I did just send you a sample BCS page. I don't know if it will pull up quickly, but if it does pull up in under a minute, we may be able to show them just a quick glimpse of what we were talking about.
That'll be in my email.
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
We'll see if that works real quick. Yes, exactly. So this is an example, and I appreciate that question because it made me think, hey, I could send one of these really quickly over to Sean and you could then talk about it. So you can see in the bottom right, there's a floor plan. And if Sean zooms in on that, you'll actually see shown in blue all of the exact areas where those windows are included. And then above that floor plan, you'll see photos of the window system that we were evaluating. On the top left hand, there's a whole bunch of questions that SCD asks us about the system. So those are all answered there. It's what system are we evaluating? What type of windows are they? What's the original year of construction? What's the square footage of the windows? And then there's a recommendation. Okay, what condition are these in? What's their remaining useful life? So in this case, you can see these are satisfactory windows that have a good life left in them. You'll see a great deal of comments from our team members that are out there. So they'll write down everything that they know, see, and can evaluate about the windows while they're on site. And then the bottom left hand where those blue boxes are is recommended replacement scope. So these windows are in okay condition. So they didn't have a recommended replacement scope. But if, for example, there were a few line items that did need to be addressed, you'd see each of those spelled out in the recommended replacement scope. So this is just one page. The document that I pulled it from, the building that was evaluated, this high school, had 395 entries. So Sean was mentioning kind of all of those different entries that get made. So for this building alone, there were 395. So this is just one of those many pages that are generated by the team that's out on site.
Okay. All right. So the true value of the whole process, once we get through this and we collect all of the information on all of your buildings, is the long-term plan and creating the process for creating the long-term plan and using the long-term plan. And I'm going to let Alyssa start to walk through that process for you.
Yeah, so the goal here, and I remember from the last time we met with you, this was probably the piece that you guys were most excited about, is building that 10-year plan, looking out. And that's something that Sean and I and everyone at Young and Wright has a lot of passion about. And we've developed a little bit of a different approach here. So the building condition survey is the starting point. That tells you everything that you need to know from what already exists, right? That looks at each of the pieces in your building and says, okay, here's what's going on. Here's how much it costs. But there's a whole other half of this that we'll work with you on it as a team to start to identify as well. So we'll be looking also at some maybe things that don't exist, some ideas or dreams that you guys have, some priorities, maybe related to program, maybe related to things you want to do outside the building, but the desire side of things, right? Not everything that you want to do already exists. So the building condition survey may not cover everything. There's also a bunch of things that often make sense to tie into the long-term plan beyond just the elements of the building. So your technology plan typically plays a role in this, in the planning. The security work that you want to do in the building, that also plays a role. Maybe how you're thinking about changing modes of teaching. This past year is a great example. So this is about having one place and one list to pull everything together. So this process looks very different at every building, but at every district, but has the same key elements. And ultimately we'll work together as a team to prioritize all of those elements and make sure that we're working from a complete list to start that long-term plan. Then what we'll do is we'll start to look at a timeline. You'll see 7 years on the screen here. I would say typically we look at least 10. And we're starting to build the plan. So we're saying, okay, from that list that we generated that has all of the elements, not just the building condition survey, what can come off the list and be done possibly as a capital outlay? So this is the $100,000 venue that you could work on with the state to get $100,000 worth of work done and then be reimbursed the next year. Are there certain things on the list of things that we identified together that really makes sense as a fit in that project? And we'll start to pull those out and start to lay out the next 10 years worth of capital outlay and planning. We'll also look at unique funding sources. So some of the ones that people talk that are kind of on the table right now are, there's a really good NYSERDA grant for lighting that may be able to be implemented at your buildings. Also the Smart Schools Bond Act, whether or not you've spent the balance of that, the funds that are available, maybe you have Excel funds left. So we'll look at any of the unique funding sources that are available to your district. And then again, take things off the list and start to put them in that 10-year plan. We'll also work with your maintenance department. And outline items that might be able to be maintenance projects. Most of these go on a yearly basis anyways, and this is really just a nice chance to catalog them and start to plan for them looking forward. And again, you're still pulling some items off of that list that we generated together at the beginning. We'll also look at kind of the common venue, right, is capital improvement projects. We're getting a lot of work done at the same time. And for that, we'll coordinate with your financial advisors. We'll look out and look at your debt limits, coordinate anything that we need to do there. Also coordinate with SED and see if we're looking at an MCA limit that we need to be aware of, or an incidental limit that we need to time into a specific spot in the overall 10-year plan. And by the time we've done this, you're really starting to get the shape or the shell of a 10-year plan. And Sean's going to show you a little bit more about what that looks like when it becomes a very technical version.
Yeah, so this is kind of a graphic representation of what we we're working towards. And I know you probably can't read any of the items in these little tiny boxes here, but essentially this is what that plan begins to look like. And it begins to lay itself out from year to year, and the number and the types of projects that are taking place on any of those given years. So for example, in this particular example, this is actually Casadega Central School District. In 2017, they were in the middle of a capital project here, and they were starting discussions on their Smart Schools project and a capital outlay project. But right in the middle of it, one of their roofs decided to blow off a little bit earlier than what we would have liked it to. And they ended up doing an emergency project. And that's this portion that was here in purple. And so we laid all this into the long-term plan because that roof was actually something that was a part of one of the upcoming projects that we were planning for. And unfortunately had to take place earlier. But the tool itself, as you can kind of see it when it's very detailed, lends itself to planning well out into the future and establishing conversations as you're going along, because sometimes these needs change. I think this past year has shown us that, in ways that we would like to not have it had shown. But you may be looking at doing certain things, and then all of a sudden the needs change. And you start having this discussion about, well, maybe that one should move into this project. Maybe this should move into this project. And this becomes a very live document. It's not something that we want to say we create, we set it over here and we just work on from it. It's something that we want to pick it up periodically. We want to update it. We want to improve it. And we want to keep looking for other ways to continue having that work done, throughout all of your facilities.
Yeah, and Sean, I just got a really great question in the chat asking if staff, teachers, and paraprofessionals have an opportunity to input into the BCS and the long-term plan. And that's a great question. And the answer is absolutely yes. I mentioned involving a lot of people and teams at the very beginning of this long-term planning process. And that's definitely 3 of the major groups that need to be included in that process. So getting feedback from each of the departments at each of your buildings, science, math, English, music, arts, athletics, and talking to each of those groups and saying, how are things going from a facilities perspective? What do you need? If you could have the world, what would it include? And sometimes those are pie in the sky ideas that feel maybe intangible at the beginning, but you never know where that finds a place in the 10-year plan. And unless you take the time to meet with each one of those groups and really catalog those ideas, you don't have the full picture. So when we skipped kind of quickly over that, the building the list process, but yes, it's a very intense process. It requires a bounty of meetings, but it really doesn't have a lot of involvement. And we've worked with community groups as well. So that planning process at the very beginning of the long-term planning, getting all the ideas on the table is quite extensive and involves pretty much every group that you could think of that's active at the school.
And in addition, this is a great spot to put a lot of things that are just thoughts at the moment. I've seen some of the great things that you guys have worked on in for your facilities over the last few years. And some of those are generated from ideas that just come up in conversation and, they may get lost for a while. Well, this is a great spot to place those items. So then you can start to work with people like Turner Construction to say, hey, if we were thinking about something about this in the future, what should we look for? What do we need to gather for you so that you could develop a budget for us so that we know what that really entails? So it's a great spot to put all of those ideas down and make sure that they're not forgotten.
Yep.
So the next steps. So that really identifies the process, a very broad overview of the process that we're going to follow in order to get you to that long-term plan. But next we will we'll talk a little bit about a schedule and how that works.
Yep. And so on the screen, you'll see a little bit of a schedule here that outlines mostly the BCS process here. And then the last month on the screen is kicking off the long-term planning process. So for exactly that question in the chat about all the different groups we'll meet with, that's something that we'll outline a very specific schedule for once we get a list of all the groups that should be met with. So that takes a very different shape at every district, as I'm sure you can imagine. Different districts have different groups that need to be included in that process. So what you can see on the kind of the 2/3 left-hand side of the screen, though, is the process for starting the BCS. Each of those items that Sean and I talked about, collecting the drawings, scanning everything in, walking the floor plans, meeting with your director of facilities, documenting your existing concerns, all of that gets done as prep work. And that's in the first leg of this. Then there's a large chunk of time where we're on site. So those are those blue bars. And that's breaking down all of the different teams that are on site. Well, if you were one teacher sitting in one room, you'd see all 9 of us enter your space and each of us would be evaluating something separate. That takes a good deal of time. So at your 4 buildings, we'd be on site for a while evaluating them. Then there's some QA/QC that we do to make sure that all the data is exactly correct. All of the cost estimates are perfectly executed. And then we would kick off the long-term planning process and do the official BCS turnover of all the data that we collected for you. So that's an outline of our next steps if and when you guys are ready to get rolling on that. I think, yeah.
Okay. Well, I apologize if that was a little bit longer and getting everything up on the screen for you to see there. But does anyone have any questions that we can help you with today?
Okay, then. No one else has any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
Well,
Sean and Alyssa.
thank you for your time. You guys have a good night and we'll talk soon.
Next, we'll go on to the school safety and reopening.
So last night's meeting, that was really the topic to determine, is that something that the safety committee would endorse and therefore would require us to make modifications to our current safety and reopening plan. So we took a look at the current data And as of today, the 7-day positivity rate for Cat County is 2.6%, with 0.01% of a hospitalization rate. That's for all of Western New York. Cat County, the Southwest Quadrant, currently has 12 active cases, which is relatively low over the past year. It has been 3 to 4 times that rate. So this puts us around where we were in May, June, and July of last year. And then we also took a look at the current immunization rate of our staff members. We have 65 staff members that are fully immunized, meaning they have either taken the single Johnson & Johnson or have taken 2 doses of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine. Thank you. Boy, it took a while to process. Additionally, we have, there's no, sorry, I can't make a joke about that. There are also 39 individuals who have received 1 dose. We also do not believe that there are any staff members who wish to be vaccinated that have not received at least 1 dose or have been scheduled for 1. And that's important to note. A couple of reasons there. And I say that because the district is not at this point requiring staff members to be vaccinated. Additionally, while we have asked them to report whether or not we can require them to tell us whether they've been vaccinated is still up in the air. The staff has been great in indicating that whether they have received the vaccine or not. So we'd like to extend our appreciation for that. So our current safety plan involves several different components to ensure that the building is open safely when we have our staff and students on site. That would be cleaning that occurs on a regular daily basis, the busing of students to and from school, food service operations, our education plan itself, and whether we have appropriate supplies to ensure that with additional students and perhaps even transitioning from 4 days to 5 days, that we can handle the cleaning requirements. So Mr. Pinkowski indicated last night that we have 2 staff members on during the day who throughout the day clean the high contact surface areas. They also use the sanitizer after large groups of students have been in a certain area and the areas were cleaned out and sanitized, as well as in the evenings where all of the rooms are cleaned and sanitized. Busing, so our transportation department has indicated that they have the ability to transport students to and from school, even with increased numbers, and still maintain the social distancing requirements, including the ability to clean the buses before and after students are on them. Food service, to be honest, was a little more challenging because of some of the concerns with students who have to take the mask off while eating and the distancing requirements. But our food service supervisor has indicated that getting the food will not be a concern, and our building administrators have developed a plan that ensures that our students are eating in a manner that's safe, and they will discuss that in a little bit more of a detailed plan in a moment. We also, I believe we have Julie Creed on the Zoom, so I'm going to ask her to discuss from the health side shortly. Ray Haley is also on. He's our Director of Security and Safety. So I'm going to ask him in a couple of moments to just speak to the process for getting students in and out of the buildings. And then I'm going to ask each of our building principals just to quickly give a 1 to 2 minute synopsis and a general take from their perspective on whether or not we should increase the frequency of students on campus as well as the number of students on campus. So at this point in time, let me start with Gail Pavone, our principal at Prospect. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a brief update on where you are academically with the building, if there are changes, what those would be and what would stay the same.
I'm really looking forward to the potential of students being able to attend the 5 days.
Gail, hang on 1 second.
Oops, maybe that. That probably doesn't sound like a good idea for me. Any luck on your side? All right, Gail, let's see.
Does that work now? Let me try my settings. Can you come back to me?
Okay, according to the audience, they can hear Gail, we can't.
Right. So why don't one of us unmute?
Can you come back to me?
Go ahead, Gail.
Turn on the senior.
All right, okay, according to the audience, they can hear Gail, we can't. That is really weird.
So why don't one of
Yes.
us unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm very excited about the potential of being able to have students in the building 5 days a week. It does cause some adjustment on our part. At this time, we have 9 students in each homeroom on A's and B days. If I were to combine all of those together, that would be 18 students in each classroom, and that's just not a safe scenario. So we're really looking at 13 to 14 students in each homeroom, and having a teacher with those 13 or 14 students. There would be very limited movement around the building. Each child would also have their own barrier. I've been very impressed by our kids wearing their masks. They're very good about leaving them on when they need to, respecting a mask break, and different things like that. And then we'd also be looking at working on a special schedule, not where kids are traveling to specials, except for potentially gym, where we'd only have one class in the gym at a time, but specials coming to the classrooms, just to break things up and make sure they're being exposed to all of those great things. We are still going to be maintaining an e-learning classroom for the families that are choosing that option for their child. And they'll also have the opportunity for specials during the day. So we're really trying to work on a plan that still creates equity between our students in person and our e-learners, as well as continuing to enhance the exposure to different things. I'm not sure if you want me to talk a little bit about the lunch situation. Right now, lunches are delivered to each room, and we are going to have students go through the line to pick up their lunch, but they still will not be eating in the cafeteria. They'll be eating in their classroom setting. We just may have to find some different spaces so that they're even more spread out during the lunchtime. But we do feel that with 13 to 14 in each room, we can spread out well, but still have good space for learning environment.
Thank you, Gail. How about Mrs. Beaver at Seneca Intermediate?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, currently Seneca has a large number of students coming 4 days a week. So we would be ecstatic to be able to do this at an additional day, bring them in 5 days. We have done some mock classrooms where we've gone in and set up the desks at approximately 3 feet apart to see how many students we could accommodate. And it appears to be, like Gail said, approximately between 15 and 16 students safely. We've organized the rooms in a horseshoe shape. I know there was a concern about the possibility of the barriers not actually being fully effective with the kids being right in them. And if we were able to angle the desks, it really eliminated that as a problem. So we would be able to add in, I think we have 106 e-learning students and approximately 70 students that are still 2 days a week. And by opening up more days, we'd be able to accommodate more students in the building. As for lunch, we also have the lunches delivered to the classrooms. At this time, it appears that is safe in the classrooms. They're staying with their cohorts. They're only unmasking during their lunch breaks. They're staying within their barrier, sanitizing, washing, and just staying, again, within their cohorts. As the weather becomes nice, we would like to be able to take the students outdoors at lunchtime or spread them out throughout the building in the NPR room. We have the large steam room just to give them some more movement throughout the day. But yeah, we would be really excited to have them back the 5 days. And I think by, going down to a 3 feet with a barrier, it really allows us to bring in more students. And we can definitely do this safely.
Great, thank you. Mr. Siebert has indicated that he's not able to attend this evening at a previous engagement, so I can talk briefly about the plan at the high school. The plan at the high school would be for instruction to occur 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that Wednesdays would be used as essentially a remediation day in the morning to bring in students who are falling behind and need the extra assistance than one-to-one or small group instruction with their teachers. The food delivery process would be similar to the other buildings. The cafeteria would not be utilized at this point in time until we can do so safely. Although he is investigating how we can use that as a large space and properly distance and utilize that in addition to the classroom. He expressed at the meeting yesterday that he is in favor and does feel as though he can utilize 3-foot distance of barriers in a safe manner to increase the number of students on campus. At this point in time, I'm going to ask Mr. Haley to touch base on some of the supplies that we have on hand, as well as the logistics of getting students in and out of the building.
I think you said me, Mark.
I did.
I had a hard time hearing. Today we had about 490 students on all 3 of the campuses. And just the way transportation's coming, the way our setup is, we're able to get everybody in the schools safely, social distance with their temperatures taken, and just about a half hour, maybe 40 minutes in some cases for the early kids. But there's 3 different locations of entry right now. One at the high school, one at the main entrance by the nurse's office that the Seneca students enter in, and then Prospect has their own entrance. So all 3 of those, we have kind of like a circle for where the kids would stand for their picture taken, and then a 6-foot line behind that. And the kids have actually gotten themselves into the habit of socially distancing as they come in the building. So, I mean, it's really, it's working out well. We always have the SRO, myself, or one of the security staff at all the entrances, and it's going smoothly. Exiting is even easier. We don't have to worry about them taking their temperatures at that point. But we still have the security staff and the SROs out by the buses, making sure that kids are getting on the buses and, getting on the right buses and everything out there to help them. Was there anything else you wanted me to report on, Mark?
No, I think that's good. Thank you.
Mark, there was a question if Seneca goes to 5 days a week, will that mean instruction would be live and in person? I'm assuming that the question is, will there be a remote option for Seneca as well?
I can answer that for you. Beginning next week, our 7th and 6th grade teachers will be giving live instruction, and the students will have the opportunity that are e-learning to zoom into that live instruction. We will also still offer the power hours and office hours for students that are e-learning. So we will still be able to accommodate both.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at this point, we can open it up for questions from the board members for any of the individuals who are in attendance regarding some of the potential changes that we have recommended. Essentially, the safety committee last night did endorse moving forward with the change or modification to our current plan from 6 feet to 3 feet with barriers, but we can also open that up for the board if they have any questions for myself or our guests online.
What's questions?
3 feet, do you recommend that is going to be enough in these classrooms with masks?
I think looking and talking with the building principals, and I'll let Mark and the principals chime in here too. That's the minimum. To the extent that we can, we will increase that distance with student instruction, the barriers, the physical spacing. We won't go below that, and we're going to look to target maybe a little bit greater distance than 3 feet. But in talking with the county health commissioner, not just for Allegheny, but for Cattaraugus County and other calls, including Onondaga County and other surrounding communities, the county health commissioners felt confident with masks, face shields, guards, and barriers, and that proximal distance of at least 3 feet, that they would support students returning as soon as districts can accommodate those safety issues. In some cases, it will be a great distance as it has been. In other cases, we'll maintain those acceptable levels as recommended by the county.
By that, you're saying that the county didn't make this official yet?
No, we met with the county health commissioner twice last week and on Monday of this week, where they indicated that the closer distance with masks and barriers was acceptable.
The county website?
That I don't know. I
If you
don't
want to
believe
speak
that it
to-
is.
If you wanted to speak to Dr. Watkins, I called him personally and spoke to him. And I think he'd be glad to talk to anybody that, has any questions at all.
Dr. Watkins has been incredibly available for the school districts in Cattaraugus County. There was a transition at Allegheny County, and we have some cross parallel with them because of our Boces. Tyler Shaw, who's the health commissioner now, or health administrator for the county, he's been equally supportive and cooperative in a parallel, because many of our districts cross counties with sending students with disabilities or vocational components or cross-district interactions. So Kevin and Tyler have been very receptive and very reachable for us.
Called me over the weekend. Answered my question.
Okay, thank you for your time.
All right. Next, we're gonna have our APPR presentation.
Mr. Long, take it away.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me remotely and in session? We'll use a teaching strategy. If you can give me a thumbs up if you can hear me remotely. I thank you so much for having me here this evening. I'm here to present on our annual professional performance review, also known as the all appropriate educational acronym of APPR. APPR process is our observation process. And I'd just like to start out with talking about the why we do this. The board adopted the APPR plan in the 2016-17 school year pursuant to the requirements of education law 3012D. But big picture is this process helps to ensure that best practices are being used consistently throughout the district and that there's an effective teacher in each classroom. Some of the results of these evaluations are a significant factor in our employment decisions, including but not limited to promotion, retention, tenure determination, and termination. Just to talk a little bit about the ratings, how we get to those decisions. The teacher effectiveness is differentiated using 4 rating categories known as the HEADY score. That would be a highly effective rating, effective, developing, and ineffective. The law requires a single composite effectiveness score that incorporates multiple measures of effectiveness. As we get into the presentation, you'll see that a lot of those measures are within our standards and elements within those standards. Just it's important to note if a teacher is rated developing or ineffective in that overall process, a teacher improvement plan, a TIP, is required to be developed and implemented. These plans are constructed with the building leader and the teacher, and then implemented for that school year with several checkpoints throughout the school year to make sure that progress is being met on improvement. Tenure teachers with a pattern of ineffective teaching or performance defined by law as 2 consecutive annual ineffective ratings may be charged with competence and considered for termination through an expedited hearing process. we'll jump right into our formal observations. Our formal observations are the observations that are scheduled with the building administrator. The teacher will meet with the building administrator for a pre-conference, the observation, and the post-conference. Within those formal observations, we're looking at 7 standards in the NISET rubric. That's the rubric we use for our observations. It's important to note the first 2 standards there, knowledge of students and student learning and knowledge of content and instructional planning, are in a pre-observation form that teachers will fill out prior to the pre-conference. The building administrator will meet with that teacher, that staff, and have discussions about the lesson and those standards that they're meeting. Is it really muted? Sorry. Is that a little better? There it is.
There you go. And then we are going to turn that off. Otherwise, okay.
So
I believe
sorry.
you should be good.
There we go. Take 2. So as I was saying, the 7 standards really make up the full observation. The first 2 are a big portion of our pre-conferences. The next 3, the instructional practice, the learning environment, and the assessment for student learning, are the biggest part of the actual in-classroom observation, where we're in the classroom taking notes and observing what's taking place. And then the last 2 standards, professional responsibilities and collaboration, along with professional growth, really occur towards the end of the year. It's a reflection for the teacher to look back on what they had done throughout the school year to meet those standards. And at the end, there's a summary meeting to comprise their complete score for their APPR process. In total, there's a total of 25 elements observed throughout the formal observation process. Important to note, every teacher in the district is formally observed at least once throughout the school year. Untenured teachers can be up to 2 formal observations. A little insight into the timing of these. I was able to solicit information from each building principal, and one formal observation consists of approximately 1.5 to 2.5 hours per observation. It's broken down there. The in-class observations 40 minutes plus, depending on transitions and end of lessons. Essentially, to complete all 233 formal observations for this school year will take around 10 to 14 weeks. So if divided across the 7 observers in the district, it would be about 2 weeks per administrator. You can see there's a substantial amount of time spent to this, and I think the quote there is fitting for that process. To be successful, it's natural to take time and make sure you're doing it well. And now we'll get into informal observations. These observations are pop-ins or walkthroughs. They're not scheduled with the teacher. It's just an administrator walking into the classroom, sitting in the classroom for a period of time. And that'll be in the next slide. It's about 10 to 20 minutes. And the 3 standards that we would observe in class are same as the formal, the instructional practice, the learning environment, and the assessment for student learning. And you can see here, it's a total of 14 elements. So just over half of what's taken place in that full process. In the informal observation, as I just stated, the in-class is about 10 to 20 minutes. And then the scripting and rating is another 10 to 20 minutes to complete. And I apologize, this is an error. The 233 formal observations consist of our teachers being observed once, some of them twice. The actual number of our informals is 194, but the math is approximately right. It's going to take about 2 to 4 weeks, or approximately 2 days per administrator to observe our staff throughout the district. The fun part where we can connect it to our mission, maximizing the potential of every warrior, and our teachers are warriors, and we foster strong relationships through that. Embracing diversity that takes place in the classroom, and providing opportunities for exploration and inquiry. And I'll kind of elaborate in the next couple of slides how we do this. And like I stated before, APPR will allow for us to foster the strong relationships, encourage the diversity in the classroom, and create a venue for exploration and inquiry. To foster the strong relationships, it's important to know that in the classroom, we encourage our teachers to build those strong relationships. It's a huge indicator of success of a student when we can have healthy relationships with the students and have that trust and confidence in the teacher. And the APPR process lends itself with the administration and the staff to build that strong relationship of trust and confidence as well. This in turn creates that environment to have those meaningful conversations around feedback and reflection, both for the administrator and the staff being observed. Second part, encouraging diversity in the classroom. Teachers are continually looking to diversify their approach to instructional delivery, student interactions, and demonstrating how their students are performing. And us being in the classroom allows for us to see the wonderful approaches to all of these elements. And then through this, we can suggest or share our thoughts in the feedback and reflection process. And then creating opportunities for exploration and inquiry. The various methods for inquiry and exploration in the classroom are demonstrated in a variety of ways. A few are listed there: discovery, exploration, learning by doing, questioning. And as administrators, we can observe these exceptional practices and strategies that are being used in their classrooms. Again, this is a repetitive purposefully, because a big part of it is the feedback and reflective practices that help us improve through this process. Another, I think, just important to note part is creating that collegial environment throughout the district, throughout the school. As administrators being in the classroom, we can often, if we see an area of need, recommend a peer that may be succeeding in the area for an informal observation from a teacher. They can go and visit that classroom, have those discussions, and open up some of the walls that might have been built in the classroom where sometimes our doors are shut and we don't always get the opportunity to see everybody in action. I was able to poll our teachers. Approximately 30 teachers have summarized their responses to the APPR process. And overall, I can tell you, everyone I spoke to, the big part is they truly appreciate the feedback that they receive and felt that it allows them to grow. You can see there, formals allow for extra eyes and brings awareness to areas of needs and strengths. There's a mixed bag of a preference of, I like a formal versus I like an informal. But the key component there was the teachers really appreciated the feedback. And what our building leaders say. I was able to speak to each building leader and again summarize their comments. I think that top one's really says it in a nutshell. It's an opportunity to see all our teachers and the great things that they're doing. And they are doing amazing things. It's incredible, especially with this year of COVID, to walk into a classroom or Zoom in to a lesson and see what teachers are doing in these trying times and the ingenious ways that they're utilizing what takes place in the classroom. I happened to walk in and catch a math lesson in the barriers that we have here. There was no time wasted handing out a whiteboard because they used this and the students were writing their math right on there. And the teacher could check to make sure that every student was participating. These are all in the elements of the observation. And it was pretty powerful. It was a cool thing that I was able to see and share out as well. And that's an important part through this process as we meet with the teachers throughout the year. That last one there, post observations and reflection, help drive PD and trainings. Through some of our observations, we're able to take note and then bring in PD through Penny Beatty and talking with her about the needs in the district. Overall, Ms. Pavone and I had a talk. I tried to meet with everybody and she helped me with this quote and I'm thankful for it. But overall, this process allows for us to ensure that good instructional practices are being used on a consistent basis to drive student achievement and learning. And that's a quick overview of our APPR, why we do it. This last slide really talks to the heart of ensuring that each student has that quality teacher in front of them. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you, and go Warriors. Exciting for all the things that are taking place in the district. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks.
Zoom in from her office. Karen, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, yes, awesome. Okay, so good evening. Tonight, we are gonna look at the overall status of the budget and adopt the tax rate, as well as review the benefits, debt service, BOCES, and overall status of the budget. Because I forgot that because April 6th is during break week that we don't have a meeting. So I'm combining these two presentations tonight. So to start with, this is a synopsis of the various benefits that we have. ERS being the non-instructional staff, TRS is the instructional staff, Social Security, workman's comp, unemployment, dental insurance, health insurance, retirees help, flex benefits, unused sick pay for those that retire, attendance awards, and new entire retirement incentives. It's about an 8% increase. 4% of that is coming from health insurance alone. Additional things are there are additional employees slated for next year, so those prices go up as well, or that pushes prices up as well. And pretty much everything has gone up anyway. So the price of hiring an employee is 18 cents on the dollar plus health insurance. So as normal with any school district, the largest piece of our pie is salaries. So you would expect the benefits to go along with that as well. Next up, we have debt service. As you can see, it drops from 4.2 down to 2.9. That's because some of the debt has now been paid off, and we have not taken on new additional debt. So it's a nice chunk to have dropped off for this year. Next year, we may have additional debt depending on when we need to start borrowing for phases 3.3 and 3.4 of our $34 million project. Next up is BOCES. As you can see, we're up 200,000 or 138,000. I tend to round things up. Basically, we're just adding a lot of services. If we can get anything through BOCES to get aid on it, we will, instead of buying direct. So we tend to do that a lot throughout the year. Larger pieces, personnel, that's the cost of BOCES operating our health insurance, as well as labor relations, et cetera. The other large piece is in-service training. That's additional trainings, including our strategic plan and the diversity training. Other additional increases were occupational education, and that's based on a 3-year rolling average. And special schools, that 25,000 that was 0 last year and 25,000 this year, that's going to be for driver education this summer. Hopefully we can go back to that. Health increased by 46,000. That includes the new, we're able to move our telemed services to BOCES COSER, so we can get aid back on that instead of paying direct. And last, contracted transportation. The reason that went up is because we didn't have transportation for a little while last year, going up to St. Mary's School for the Deaf, as they were all remote. And overall, so this is where we are as of this morning. So as you can see, in 1920, our actual revenues were $49 million. Our budgeted revenues in 2021 are 43. We're looking at 48.6 million for upcoming year. Taking it down into the expenditures, looking at personnel instruction, it's an increase of 10% over the current year. Personnel non-instructional is an increase of 7% over the current year. Equipment and capital outlay, an increase of 8%. BOCES, an increase of 7%. Contractual is -6%, and some of that is because part of these expenses went into BOCES. Materials and supplies is down 2%. Tuition and textbooks is down 4% because we have more students that were attending Randolph Academy are now back in district. And personnel, of course, benefits. If your salaries were going to rise, your benefits are also going to rise. And then debt service, again, as I just explained, is down. So we're looking at $43.5 million. And then also the increase in interfund transfers, 75,000 is for summer school, extended school year for special education students. And 5 million would go to fund additional costs for phases 3.3 and 3.4. So overall, we're looking at 48.6 right now. And Bob, Mark, and I will sit down and go through and give it another pass. And we'll present you final numbers at the next session in April. Any questions?
Our current budget,
Current budget, Karen,
I'm sorry,
current budget for this year.
43.5.
and how much of that was capital project?
I didn't
How
hear
much-
the question.
How much for capital project that we transferred for 2021?
1.6 million.
This year, we're at 43 million, but we have 5 million in for capital project.
This year, we're at 48.6 with 5 million for capital project.
All right, go over the numbers again. What, I thought the revenues were 48. I thought our expected budget was 43.
I can't hear the question.
So the question, Karen, is, can you go over the numbers again with where the total amount for 21, 22 and highlight the capital reserve transfer?
It's down here. I think you see the mouse move, my keys, see the mouse moving. So
Yeah.
overall, if you look at the cost of programming, et cetera, it's 43.5 million. Current year right now, it's at 41.8. So you add on the 1.6 that we transferred to capital for the current year. So we have a total current year budget of 43.5. So next year, we're looking at almost the same number at 43.5 for operations, and then add the 5 million in, so we're at 48.6. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Is there any other questions?
Just a comment with regard to staffing and to highlight what Karen had said. Hang on one second. We have the listing of staff that we are projecting to include into this budget. And we are meeting early part of next week with principals and supervisors to discuss the vacant positions due to retirements and the new positions and what that might look like. We've built those into the budget as anticipated with the new positions, and we will have more information soon about what the staffing requests look like for the departing staff. The principals are working on schedules, in particular the high school, where a lot of those questions are driven, but also looking at what does our return model potentially look like for July, August, September, and beyond. So stay tuned with staffing. We could have some adjustments, and it's going to be an interesting ride with the Senate and the Assembly in New York. If you'd seen their projections or their one-house budgets, they have essentially taken the governor's budget and gone on steroids with what they believe we should be spending on education. I can tell you in 32 years, the increase that they are projecting from the Senate and the Assembly is unprecedented spending for public education. I agree with it. I think that it's long overdue. It deals with phasing in of foundation aid finally. It deals with not transferring special ed costs to local school districts for students in residential or special act placement schools like the School for the Blind or the School for the Deaf or other special act schools. It reinstates transportation aid for us delivering meals and food and supplies in the spring. It will be interesting to see in the next 3 weeks where the Senate, the Assembly, and the executive branch fall, but I would assume it would be somewhere north of Governor Cuomo's proposal, probably by a lot. April 1st, it's due. That doesn't mean that the state will always do that, but in the last several years, they've been pretty good about hitting that April 1st deadline. Last year, they missed it by a day. I think the previous 3 or 4 years, they were on time, and then there had been a time many years ago where they were months late, months. So stay tuned.
Any last questions?
Anyone else? Nope.
Thank you, Karen.
Karen.
All right, thank you.
All right. Do we have any public communication? Any Title VI? No?
No comments in Facebook that we haven't answered yet.
Okay. Then let's go on to central office message. Karen, do you want to start? Do you have anything else?
I was just gonna say, you just heard it. Yeah, I really don't have anything else. My time has really been spent working on the budget and getting some other stuff for deadlines. So other than business as usual, I've got nothing.
Okay. Dr. Beeler?
Sure. So let's just establish a ground practice for when we have speakers in here. If everyone could turn their speakers off, we won't get the feedback. The speakers, because then it goes through and then comes back. The microphones, that's another one. Yeah. Okay. So there was one question that was raised through the Facebook Live, which is we neglected to mention in the event that we do approve the safety plan to reduce the distancing from 6 feet to 3 feet, we would look to change our practices in school. So in other words, put that into play the week after Easter break. So that would be April 12th is the week that we're looking to put that into place. But at this time, I would like to actually recognize 2 individuals who frequently operate behind the scenes to ensure our students receive an outstanding education and that our adults are treated properly and get paid. Kristen Dudek, who's our Director of Pupil Personnel Services, her primary responsibilities include special education services, student registration, and grant management. Each one of those responsibilities has been drastically changed by the pandemic because of the inability to have visitors and for many times having in-person meetings. The pandemic has also required constant changes to the grants that she writes, and those frequently require a lot of collaboration with stakeholders, New York State, and the federal government. Kristen, over the past year, has led her office through several changes, process changes, and technology advancements that have required a fundamental change in the way the business or her office operates. The result has actually proven to increase parent participation in CSE meetings and overall created a more efficient method for registration. So I'd like to just acknowledge her and thank her and her team for the work. I also just wanted to talk about Josie Hubbard as well. She is one of the office managers in our business office. Primarily, she manages payroll and human resources, although she's heavily involved in several other facets of the operation because realistically, human resources and payroll affect just about every employee. The pandemic has presented several challenges for Josie as well, including ensuring we are compliant with the ever-changing regulations regarding work changes, pandemic regulations, as well as recent contract amendments and extensions. She's also in the process of transitioning to electronic forms with specific flow patterns, which will make everyone's life simpler. The office there is a pretty high stress place because in addition to all of this, everyone expects to still get paid every 2 weeks, and that falls under her responsibilities as well. So these are 2 individuals that really keep things flowing behind the scenes that really we don't see out there on a regular basis. But I wanted to extend our gratitude to them for the great work that they do every day.
Awesome. Yes, we definitely appreciate their hard work. Thank you for recognizing them. That was nice. All right. So we will move on to the Board of Education message. Dale, since you looked right at me, I might as well start with you. I know, see? Okay. Barb?
Student staff and hearing some socialization and lots of that. And it was good to be back in school.
All right. Meg?
I am good tonight.
All right. Brad?
I just want to thank everyone for their presentation and thank everybody for their relentless effort to keep kids safe and get them back in school. I know my kids are going to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue?
I want to say happy birthday to Teresa.
No, don't forget that.
Happy birthday, Teresa. Easter vacation's coming up, and hopefully the teachers and the students will come back healthy, happy, and finish up the last 6 weeks. And have a nice summer. And hopefully by fall, we can start all over and everything will be all back to normal.
Thanks, Sue. Carrie?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the reopening plan. We did have our safety meeting last night, and after listening to our principals, Dr. Mueller, Ray Haley, June Creed, I feel confident in what we're doing. You know, I'm sure a lot of you know that I'm one of the ones who have always been a little hesitant on our reopening plans. Go for it. Thanks. Sue said if it needs my approval, then we're good. But seriously, it's one of these things that I pay attention to this every day. I watch what's going on, I watch the trends, and I question everybody here on what we're doing. Last night, I just asked point blank questions to each of our principals, to Dr. Beeler, and one that I put a lot of trust into is Julie Creed. I asked her honest opinion, and she gave it to me. I think that what we're planning and what we're doing is the safest we can do. I've always been 50-50 when it comes to our reopening plans, but I think listening to Julie last night kind of put me over that 51-49, I guess I want to say. I was asking tonight if this guidance has been made official on the county website for a few reasons. One, if it's not official, then maybe we hesitate a little, but we have 3 weeks built in anyway. That's one of the things I've always watched was what's official and what's not, whether it comes from CDC, New York State Department of Health, or the county health. So as long as we're following all protocols, all guidance, I'm comfortable with this reopening plan we have. And again, I've heard from a few folks. If other people have any other opinions, you can, and I'll say it again, you can always reach out to any of us as the board. Our numbers are public on the website. Call any one of us. There's 7 board members. Reach out to all 7, reach out to one, whoever, your favorite board member, I don't know. But if we don't hear feedback, then we have to assume things are going well. Typically, it's always the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. So again, I think we're moving in a good direction, and I'm confident in what the people who work here and spend a lot of time looking at this. I'm confident in what they're doing. That's pretty much all I had to say, other than thank everybody for all their hard work. That goes for our entire staff. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Sure.
For anyone watching this as well, I mean, we have a great team here that has been doing just a fantastic job to keep, staff, faculty, and students safe. But if you want more of the data too, there was the study as the Harvard School of Public Health on the 3 feet versus 6 feet. So they've spent months looking at this and looking at other states that have had more lax rules than what we've had in our state. And so there's a number of districts that have been doing the 3 feet with the barriers and with the masks. And so the Harvard School of Public Health made that recommendation, to reduce to 3 feet as well. And so I like data a lot. So that, when we first started having this conversation of reducing that, I know my gut reaction was like Carrie's, where I was like, oh gosh, no. But looking at the data, that gave me a good deal of comfort too. So again, if you're watching this at home, you can just Google it, Harvard 3 feet versus 6 feet. It'll be the first thing that pops up in Google and you can read it.
Mute myself here. Yes, and I'm really glad that we do have the district safety committee to review everything so that we know that when it comes to the board, that board members sit on there, that we have questions that are kind of asked in advance so we know, and that we're not just bringing a plan willy-nilly, that it's been thought out, that all the questions have been addressed. So thank you to everybody that sits on that. Thank you to everybody that is keeping our kids safe. And I'm gonna say, hopefully everybody out there that has a chance to get the vaccine is getting the vaccine. I got mine on Saturday. I was lucky enough to get the Johnson & Johnson, as well as my daughters got them. So we're a fully vaccinated family. So it just gives you that sense of, to me, it was just that one step closer of, oh, my family's getting vaccinated, so now I can actually spend time with them and not have to worry about it. So for people that are really worried about it, my experience was I had a headache and a sore arm for a couple days. I'll do that every 3 months if I have to, so that I know that I'm safe and that the community is safe around me. So please, everybody out there, if you can get the vaccine, please do so. That's what I have tonight. So we'll move on to the superintendent.
I would like to echo the confidence that Carrie had noted and the board had noted in our leadership team, which is not just our administrators, nurses, Julie, Kim, Lori, Ray Haley, our buildings and ground staff, our professional teaching staff. We have a really spectacular team, and I think, as Carrie had noted, when Julie, our nurse manager, spoke, that spoke volumes. I'll share another story that talks about the leadership of our team. Is when this first started many months ago, we had the foresight to, I won't say corner the market in these plastic polycarbonate shields for students and staff. But what we paid for them compared to other districts in our region is substantially less. So by being proactive and being ahead of the curve, we're helping keep our families safe and our students safe, but also being as responsible as we can to our community. We, like many districts, have had to spend a significant amount of money to outfit our school district with the personal protective equipment, and that has helped to keep us safe. And I'm confident that if our team says we need X, then I'm confident that Karen will find the money, Mark will find the vendor, the buildings and ground staff will go get it if need be, and our faculty and staff will help us keep kids safe. So I do feel comfortable. When we spoke with the county, I invited Mr. Haley and Dr. Beeler into the conference call with me so that there were 6 ears hearing what the health commissioner said. It's too important to rely on a single point of accountability. It's too much responsibility for any one person to bear. And that's why our team collaborates. We have conversations, I can assure you, to make sure that not only are we safe, but we're exceptionally safe. And it's an honor to work with these fine individuals. This week is the Impact Aid Conference in Washington, D.C. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow are full slates of days of Impact Aid meetings, presenters, conversations, access to legislative and governing leaders that work in Washington, D.C. and help advocate for the some 1,200 federally impacted school districts serving over 10 million students in this country. We happen to be one of those. I'll say it again proudly. We were the first indigenous district in New York State, and now there are 6 because of our cooperation and our advocacy. Tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, we have a robust slate of lobbying appointments with almost all of our elected officials on a federal level in New York State. Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, Representative Reed, and about 9 or 10 other elected congressional delegations will be meeting with us over the next 3 days. And what is really impressive is this year we have 2 students joining us on some of those meetings, particularly with Senator Schumer and Gillibrand, Congressman Reed and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez are working with us, and our students will participate. Cody Yarns and Riley John will be joining us, and we've put them through Lobbying 101. They will have a role in those conversations with our elected officials. And I can promise you, that having done this for about 9 years, nothing brings it home like a student telling a senator or a congressperson exactly what's what. So I'm excited for those 2 students to be joining us over our meetings over the next 3 days. As long as we're talking about students, on April 20th, I've talked with the board and have sent out a message that a group of our students and our Salamanca Student Advocacy Group that has formed this summer and this spring, or this summer and this past fall and winter, have been working on a project that is very important to them. And it is something that they have researched exceptionally well. They have vetted it with other students. They have vetted it and spoken with countless staff members to build positive momentum for something that's important to them. And on April 20th, they will join us and present to you something that they would like the board to consider. I'll let them take point on it, but just simply state on April 20th, we'll have a group of students present to the board. On tonight's agenda, there is a draft calendar. We're at the point where the state has provided us some information. There are some contractual implications with the calendar that I wanted to make sure we were pretty wrapped up with. This is a draft calendar, and as soon as we can approve this, probably in April, this will talk about what the 21-22 school calendar will look like. Let's see, there were two other things, and I think I'm done. Last meeting, there was a question, and Meg had brought it to my attention. I thought we answered it, but maybe not. So there was a community question about the box lacrosse board systems that were originally set up at Vets Park. We still have those. In looking at those pieces of equipment, the board, through a change order a little bit ago, decided to upgrade those systems. The boards that we had originally purchased are here, and we're working with a third-party vendor in Turner Construction, our construction manager, to try and resell those into circulation through a third-party vendor or a sports distributor. If you have any questions, you can give me a call at school at 945-2400 extension 4025, or we can put you in touch with Julian Schnapp, our construction project manager, and we can work out some of the details and conversations. The last thing I will state tonight is there are three people on this call that do an incredible amount of work, and I'm thankful for Mark for recognizing some of our other staff this evening, but I want to thank Karen Magera. Putting together a budget in any year is a challenge. Karen is not only incredibly talented, she knows her stuff. And when we come to her with unbelievably unpredictable solutions to problems that we hadn't even imagined were possible, Karen makes sure that we put our kids first, our strategic plan first, and finds the money or has already budgeted for it, because Karen knows Mark and I very well. And we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do every day of every year if it wasn't for Karen's exceptional talent in budgeting and finance. So I want to thank Karen. And I would also like to thank Dr. Beeler and Mr. Haley for all of their work that they have done for the last 366 days since we closed down. And to say that that task was monumental is barely does it justice, but they have always tended to the needs of our faculty and staff and our students. They have not been impulsive or rash. They have been thoughtful, methodical, and precision in their thinking to keep us safe and to keep all the trains instructionally, food service, transportation, cleaning, to keep those trains running on time. It is a testament to the board that you have allowed this district to hire approximately 317 exemplary employees in this district. Everyone is in alignment and rowing together. And in those rare, very rare and fleeting moments where we may have a policy disagreement, we do what effective organizations do. We work it out and then we get back to work. And I just want to say thank you to all of those individuals. Thank you to our faculty and staff, and especially thank you to the Board of Education. Your job is not easy in a good year. And this has been an exceptionally demanding year. And you, as 7 board members, have been nothing short of exemplary yourselves. Thank you.
Snaps. Give them snaps.
There you go.
Yes, thank you to everybody. It has been a trying year, but everybody is working together to make sure the kids are safe, the staff is safe, and that we can try and educate our kids the best possible way. And we have faced challenges, but we are trying to overcome them the best that we can. So hopefully we're a leader to other districts. So thank you to everybody that makes that possible. And with that, I am going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Barb, second by Meg. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried. Item 8 under old business is our policies. Policy 5633, policy 3220, and our TBD, equity, inclusivity, and diversity in education policy. So we need a motion to approve those. Okay, well, that was like a group. I think I heard Meg first, but that's because she was closest to me. So I'm going to give it to Meg. Who seconded? Brad? All right. So we got a motion by Meg and a second by Brad. Are there any questions on any of the policies? Rob has a comment.
Just to note, the equity, inclusivity, and diversity in education policy will be numbered once we approve it through Boces. Then we can enter it into the board docs policy portal.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Under new business, item A is our Boces cooperative purchasing resolution, which I will not read, but I will ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Sherry, second by Sue. Are there any questions on this agreement? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Item B is our consulting agreement with Rosemary Brisley. So we need a motion to approve that consulting agreement. Motion by Barb. Second by Dale. Are there any questions on this agreement? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. My favorite, item C, capital project change orders. We need a motion to approve the change orders listed. Did Brad made a motion? Second. Motion by Brad, second by Carrie. Are there any questions?
You missed a really small one last meeting.
Did I?
Yeah.
How much was it?
It was like $5,000.
Oh, geez. They save all the good ones for me, right?
You need your signature.
Yep. So we got a motion by Brad, second by Carrie. All in favor?
Hold on.
Oh, I'm
Can
sorry.
we get a brief description? Let's get the larger one. Let's
Okay.
do the intro meeting. And then let's have a brief description, please.
I've got to pull those up and
We're testing you.
hang on here.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I got to get to the right screen here. And I'm not logged in. I logged out. So hang on here 1 second. Come on. This would be the point where we have a brief musical interlude.
31.9 is for the netting system.
Oh, for
For
the,
the 20-foot netting system at.
The box
that
lacrosse
charge-
fields.
box lacrosse.
okay.
And I think they're all box lacrosse related. Let me just get in here too.
Right,
Okay.
and the other, the A-turf is for the box across the line
Lines.
changes. Removing the NLL lines, and installing the white CLL line. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. The large one for A-turf is for changes to the NLL, the National Lacrosse League lines that were installed, to change those to the CLL lines. The other one for Lakeshore, which was 31,000, was for the netting for the box lacrosse.
Okay.
And some of the other ones, the 9,400 one is dealing with the transformers to allow for greater use for the powwow and other large scale events with the transformers.
Are there any other questions? So we have a motion by Brad, second by Carrie. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. And item D is a motion to create a full-time homeschool coordinator position. So we need a motion to create that position. Motion by Meg. Second by Dale. Are there any questions on this position?
Yeah, can we just have Dr. Beeler just
Sure.
kind of give us a 30-second summary of why
Highway
we
review.
changed this position?
Certainly. The homeschool coordinator will be working very closely with the My Brother's Keeper team to be coordinating the upcoming mentoring program for our Native American male students. So this individual will have the funding provided at this point in time solely through the My Brother's Keeper grant.
Okay. So we have a motion by Mag, second by Dale. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. And item E, we need to declare a wheelchair surplus. So we need a motion to declare the wheelchair surplus. Motion by Barb. Second by Dale. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried. Item F is to adopt our tax levy at 1.23%. And do you have anything to add on this, Karen?
This is just a requirement that we approve, the amount that it can't exceed. Right now, it's slated at $250,000.
Right, so the 250 is where we have been for the past 3 years, 4 years?
Okay, sorry. to restate that the 1.23% is what is required to be approved, and we will keep our tax levy at $250,000.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve the tax levy. Motion by Brad. Second by Dale. Are there any questions? Sue?
Yeah, I have a question.
Carrie?
The taxes are not going up to the general public.
The tax levy will be $250,000 like it has been for the last couple of years.
That's what I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
That's what I assumed, but I wanted to.
My question, why are we doing this now when we haven't even approved the budget?
Because it's required to be done at this point in time. I totally agree. I mean, I had to report the tax levy information to the state on March 1st.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? So we have a motion by Brad, second by Dale. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Item G is our contract educational elements. So we need it for $33,500. So we need a motion to approve that contract. Motion by Carrie, second by Meg. Are there any questions on this contract?
Just, I'm sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
I was gonna ask Bob to give us a rundown.
Okay. This is the student fellowship work that I had talked about last meeting. We'll be running approximately 6 90 to 120-minute training sessions with students and selected faculty to help the students hone a message, to identify their talking points for persuasiveness, and then be able to present a really persuasive argument for particular topics dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is our hope that a component district somewhere else will partner with us. We are the first district in the state that I'm aware of, and that our Boces or neighboring Boces are aware of, that is doing this kind of partnership with students. And it's our hope that we will have another district partner with us. And then, much like many other services, we can make this aidable through Boces. But right now, we're the lead sled dog here pulling the sled. And we're happy to do that as we've done before. But this will be about 6 meetings with kids and the trainers. And then our plan is to culminate with a excursion to our capital to do the Native American Museum, the African American Museum, the Holocaust Museum, and end the day on Capitol Hill meeting face-to-face with representatives.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I just have a quick one. Is there any workaround with Boces with some of the stuff? Because we are an incredibly unique district. So it's very easy for, say, suburban districts to find partners on things, but we are, I mean, I don't need to describe why our district is unique. We all know it, sitting here. So it just seems like that partnership thing for Boces it's frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, we're working on a solution. I mean, this is clearly professional development training, and there are other elements in the Boces catalog where this is pretty standard, but because this is new, it's a little slower. We have had a number of conversations with Tim Cox from Boces and Scott Payne, the district superintendent. I think that it is easily aidable, but there is a process that Albany dictates, and it's really not Boces. They are very aggressive and cooperative. And if it's outside of our Boces, we can find partners. We use that elements for our strategic plan, and it's an Erie to Boces COSER with Lewis and Porter. So it's not always a direct straight path. We just work through the process with Boces, and CA Boces is really pretty effective and successful in getting things into the COSER book. And just for the record, that spell check on the subtitle says kosher. How about in the COSER book? It still says kosher, closer, bucket. I don't know. I'll stop.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? We have a motion by Carrie, second by Meg. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Item H is the district safety plan. So we need a motion to approve the district safety plan. Motion by Brad. Second by Dale. Do we have any questions or comments more than Carrie?
Mark, give us a rundown.
Okay, so the safety plan that is before you is really the same safety plan that we have had in place since the summer. It was initially adopted in May, I believe. It was amended in July when we started to bring some students back. And the primary modification, actually almost the exclusive modifications at this point in time, are around the references from 6 feet for the desks to be placed. That number has been reduced to 3 feet. There were also 2 annotations in there about propping open doors and windows. For our current ventilation systems, that would defeat some of the air exchange rates. So those 2 lines have been removed because that actually decreases the amount of air that would be turned over in the rooms as much as possible. Those have been set, and we've confirmed that. When they were doing some of the testings at Prospect, some of those air handlers had been adjusted by the installers, but those have been opened back up again so that across the district, the air exchange rates, so how frequently all of the air in the room is vacated and then replaced with fresh air, is set at the highest level. And that's really, honestly, the only changes that were changed within the plan. It's really the same plan that we have been utilizing.
I just wanted to bring up a couple specific here. On page 19 and 20 of the document, one, under the category physical distancing, under section 2 student operations, section 2.1 health and safety. To ensure students comply with physical distancing requirements, Salamanca City Central School District will do the following. Ensure a 6-foot distance between students or 3 feet if a physical barrier is used. Anytime students are less than 6 feet apart from one another, students must wear acceptable face coverings and keep contact time to a minimum unless a physical barrier is used. I thought our guidance was still face masks regardless of distancing. This kind of denotes otherwise.
That's correct. We'll have to make a change to that. There really has been no change. Our practice is masks are worn essentially at all times. If that was, I believe that was probably a typographical error when it was modified. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but that we will ensure that all of these ensure that the masks are worn at all times, whether there's a barrier there or not. That has been our practice and will continue to be the practice.
Thank you.
Okay. Just to add to that, there was a point in time early on where there was conflicting messaging coming from the state health department that said masks must be worn, masks should be worn, masks may not be worn if certain other conditions were implemented, and then clarifying documentation came out from the state that indicated that masks should be worn, period, as the rule. Yeah, that they needed to be worn in a school setting, and that's to the extent that we can. There are certain instances where students with profound disabilities may have some difficulties doing that. That has been really universally a pretty small anomaly in the system. Even students with other physical, emotional, or cognitive delays have really been able to do this both within our school setting and across other districts. And I can tell you with the students in here, they have no issue doing it, and they've been compliant at an exceptionally high level. And I think the students get it, and they will do just about anything to get back in school. So we'll amend that to make sure that it's the most clearest, accurate language that we have.
And like I said, I think we've made it clear that what we want to see from the board is that this is mandatory. It's not a
Right.
question of should or if or whatever, that mask wearing is required.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments? Okay, then we Have a motion by Brad, second by Dale. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Item 10 is just our information reports. Second reading for policy 5633, second reading for 3320. Indigenous Education Committee meeting minutes from March 10th. Capital project summary. Salamanca Warriors winter scholar athletes. Thank you email.
Yep. About a week or so ago, the district hosted a team from North Tonawanda. So this is from one of the administrators from North Tonawanda. Gentlemen, thank you for your time, hospitality, and an incredible behind-the-scenes experience of your impressive programs and facility. The excitement as we departed was palpable, and what you have realized and achieved in Salamanca is what we dream to create in NT, North Tonawanda. You have built the Ferrari of models, and today you have provided our team with a vision of what is possible for our students, practitioners, and the larger NT community. We have a lot of work to do, and the journey for us has just begun. Again, thank you, and thanks to those inspiring and proud teachers for taking the time to provide us this opportunity. You lit a lot of fires today. Best, Mike, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Student Services from the North Tonawanda City School District.
Awesome. Thank you. Item H is
I should note that Mark is an NT alumni, so
That's correct. We get to catch up on some of the North Tonawanda traditions, like square dancing in gym class and a hoedown, and I think it was November, so it was good to catch up. And it was good to be able to be here and show what is generally considered a pretty high quality suburban school district that we have the skills and the equipment and the people that really make our program excellent.
I took square dancing in gym class too, FYI.
and survived.
And survived, yes. Item H is the Boces budget and election. And item I, make sure you review the draft calendar, please. And our upcoming events. Our next board meeting is April 20th. Next in
March 30th.
March 30th.
That's a special board meeting.
Oh, that's right.
For
I'm
honoring
sorry.
our retirees. And probably a few other things on the agenda.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then April 14th is Indigenous Education. April 20th is Board of Education, just to highlight a couple. And now we need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of property and contract negotiations, in particular the STA contract.
We took.
Oh,
we
yeah,
did
that's
take
right.
it
I'm
out.
sorry. Short memory.
And we will return for action for the vote.
Okay.
We will return in the gym for the
Yeah,
vote at
for the
9
vote.
PM.
So we need a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Carrie, second by Barb. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Please join us again at 9 for the vote tally.